What's going on, fam? Ruben here, and I just today wanted to make this video, first video on book reviews. As many of you may know or may not know, I'm a huge advocate of book reading. I have a great shirt in my closet back here called America Read Again. Actually, that's much better. So I'm a big advocate of books. I think as part of my own education, whether that was going to public school, going to college, I didn't really learn that much. I went to college for computer information systems, so very skill-based, very logical kind of major. I don't know why I went for it, because it's not kind of what I'm into and not part of my personality. But after I finished college and I started reading a bit, I realized I started learning so much from just books, meeting the authors, or I was going to their events and being able to ask them questions, and going to any other events they may have around the country. Sometimes they have speaking engagements that you can go. Sometimes the author will have book signings, and you can go and they have like a little talk before the book signing. And I want to talk about one of my favorite books of the year right here. And you may be familiar with it because it was a huge deal when it came out. Mark Manson, Everything is Fucked, a book about hope. And I got this book, I ordered it on Amazon, but I also went to his speaking tour. He had a speaking tour and he gave free books. So I actually had 3 copies of this. I bought one off of Amazon. I got one for free when I went to the event, and then before I was leaving the event, someone left their copy on the seat, and I just grabbed it because no one was going to take it. So I was like, why not? And I'll gift it to somebody. So I gifted it to my co-host and major buddy, Jesse. So I read this book. I devoured it in like a week, and it came out about 2 months ago, and then I took a bunch of notes on it. And I want to share what I learned and what he really spoke about in the book, because the title is Everything is Fucked. So obviously you see that and you're just like, what? But I think it's more of I like that he puts it's a book about hope, because he talks about the real stuff. He talks about what we as humans, what drives us deep down, because he studied like philosophy and psychology and kind of mingled these two, and he uses a lot of stuff from Immanuel Kant, who was a philosopher. He talks about other Stoic philosophers, and he brings in a lot of their work, as well as psychologists Carl Jung and other folks out there. And I'm gonna just read off some quotes and really talk about them. So this will be a long form video. And I hope you can continue this conversation below on my takeaways from this book. So one piece that he started with, which I really, really liked, and something I've thought about since I was a teenager, end quote. One day you and everyone you love will die. And beyond a small group of people for an extremely brief period of time, little of what you say or do will ever matter. This is the uncomfortable truth of life. And everything you think or do is but an elaborate avoidance of it. We are inconsequential cosmic dust. We imagine our own importance. We invent our purpose. We are nothing. Enjoy your fucking coffee. And he talks about before that, he's like, I wish I could work at Starbucks and tell people this. He says that, and he says he wishes he can put that quote on everybody's morning Starbucks coffee. And in a sense, it's due to the fact that it will humble you. Especially living in a city like New York, which is why I want to move so bad. Everyone thinks everything we're doing is so important. And I'm just like, nothing is that important. The most important things are the things people say at the end of your life. And that's a quote. I like what Ariane Huffington says in one of her presentations I watched on YouTube once, just a random one. And she was saying how, like, at the end of the day, at your funeral, will they really care about how much profit you brought into the company in 2020, right? 50 years after that, when you die? No, they're gonna talk about what you did for people, your compassion, how much you loved, how much you cared, what you brought to the world, right? They're gonna talk about the things you did and how you were, right? And when I say the things you did, nothing will revolve around numbers. Maybe if you changed 1,000,000 people's lives through a scientific revolution, not revolution, but an invention, scientific invention that helped thousands of people, whether I was getting people water or getting people food or all these important things that helps the human race continue and thrive and strive for more, right? And I really like that because a lot of it humbles you. It makes you think, like, and there's some people that will be like, oh my God, like, that's so true. And then they have this existential crisis. That's not the case. Like, hey, life is supposed to be fun. Just enjoy the fucking ride. You're here anyway. You were born. And it's just time to enjoy. See? Lily understands, you know? And cats don't even think about that shit. They live like 12, 13 years and boom, right? I have to bring my cat into this, but and throughout the book, that's kind of like the leading argument, I could say. And he talks about like hope, right? And that the opposite of happiness is hopelessness. It's basically hopelessness is an endless gray horizon of resignation and indifference. What I like about this is what I've learned and taught and realized was that emotions, so good or bad emotions are great. Like, I don't care. Anger, sadness, happiness, all these emotions we feel are amazing. Why? Because it shows that we are human. And the worst thing that a person can feel, for instance, in a relationship, is like, I can hate you, but in a sense, hate and love kind of coincide together because it comes from a state of caring. I care about you and I hate the fact that you do these things. I'm sure in your relationships you've said something like this. But hate or love is still a feeling. There's still there's still some like thing. You can work on things. The worst thing that can ever happen in your relationship is indifference. When you don't care. When you can give two shits about what the person does, how they react, how they act, anything. Indifference is worse. And I love when he brought that in. It's partially why I wrote it. And throughout the book, he goes through like self-control, and he talks about emotions and how they pretty much are the drivers of life. And it really made me think, do we actually have free will? Is there such thing as free will? It made me question it. And to be honest, I don't have an answer. But I do think that to a certain extent, we don't have free will. We are controlled. We are controlled by, scientifically, in our hormones. And I don't know how to put this in words. It's so difficult. Because we are controlled by what our hormones and body is reacting to, right? We are controlled by what is going on in chemically in our brains. We are controlled by all these things. I mean, have you ever felt so exhausted, so tired, and you know you probably want to stay up for a specific reason, you're trying to stay up, but you can't, and your body's like, shut down, stop, go to sleep, right? And then you end up falling asleep wherever you are, right? It's kind of like that. Like, you don't really control what you do. It's really hard. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, and this is what the most successful people have done. They override their emotions, which is extremely powerful. And this is why a lot of people in the world, I mean, there's billions and billions, and the number's only growing. Why so many people won't be successful, because doing that requires so much discipline. It requires luck. It requires you being born in the right place. And these are just the realistic part of it. And a lot of what he talks about in this book is that, like, being real and like, hey, this is the realness. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all the great things, right? That happiness should be your goal when it shouldn't. Your goal should be able to question things and realize that there are going to be times when you're going to be unhappy, and what can you do during those times to come back. And one part of the book that really stuck out to me is how they did this huge study, and I forgot what chapter it is, but they did this huge study in the book that showed, I mean, not in this book, but a huge study that he talked about, was that they tracked people's like daily happiness scale. It was from 1 to 10. And obviously 1 meaning you have no satisfaction, and 10 being like you are ecstatic about something. And what they realized through they follow, I think, thousands of people in the study and had them do this throughout the day, every day for a few years. And what they noticed, the average number that came out was 7. Parent died, it will go down to like a 3, 2, 1, right? It will go down a lot. A few months later, back to 7. Oh, you experienced this amazing happiness, like you got everything you wanted, you got the house you dreamed of. And you're like, oh my God, I did it. I got the house I dreamed of. Happiness goes up to 9, 10. Guess what happens a few months later? Down to 7. So pretty much, we live on this axis of 7 right here. And occasionally it goes whoop, and occasionally it goes whoop, and then it goes right back, and then it goes whoop, and then goes whoop, and then goes right back, and then maybe it'll go a little whoop, and then back, and then whoop, and then back, and then sometimes it'll go up and down. So basically 7 is, we just live in this plane. So everything you see on social media, even all these famous people that you see, that's literally just one piece of their life, a small piece of their life. So if you're the type of person to compare yourself to these people, I know I did in the past, I will always compare myself to these people that I follow and be like, why can I complete and do the things that they're doing? It's like, but actually, yes, they're doing an amazing thing, but guess what? When you get there, it's like living right now. So why not be happy and be content with where you are now while you're striving? So this is the conundrum here, and this is the double-sided part of it, where it's like it gets very nuanced and gray, and there's no black and white here. It's like, yes, be happy and content with where you are, and just be like, man, I'm so grateful for everything I have, but strive for more. You still have intentions out there, and you still want to accomplish more. Because yes, I will be here for a long time. I'll be on the 7, and there's occasions where I go down to a 5 and go back to a 7, and go down to a 3 and go back to a 7, right? These things will happen. And then there'll be bouts of the highs, right? 9, 10, and these amazing times. So definitely, and it's something I actually learned during plant medicine journeys, was how life is this amazing ride, and it's just like, hey, just have fun. We're all gonna die. Have a good time on this planet. Laugh with your friends. Make love. Fight. Get into trouble occasionally. Please don't get in trouble with the law. Don't kill anybody. Like, don't do those crazy things. But I think it's good to just go out there and live your life. And society has created this way where, like, doing the things we want to do like that, whether that's talking on a train, and even though it's something so simple, talking loud on a train with your friends while you're laughing, and like, if I'm by myself, I'm annoyed by those people. But I know I've been that person with a group of friends talking loud on a train here in New York City. And now I'm just like, hey, they're having a good time. Like, put your headphones in if you don't want to hear it, and just go about your train ride and let them have a good time. Took a long time to get there though, and occasionally, depending on the day, I could still feel a specific way. And I'm just going through my notes here. And I kind of dug into this part that really stuck out to me too, was how we need conflict to maintain a sense of hope. There always has to be some form of duality. There always has to be some form of us against them, something like that, right? Whether that's, and I'll put this in nutrition because that's what I've been studying a lot this year. You got organic versus GMO, right? Genetically modified food or industrial foods versus organic foods, right? There's this conflict which gives us hope that one day we may defeat the industrial companies, these huge companies who are creating these frankenfoods, as people call it, and become more organic and more sustainable, and everyone's gonna have farms one day. Like that's the dream. Will that happen? I don't know. Maybe not. But this conflict is what gives us hope. I think there's always been wars, there's always been these multiple religions, there's always been something. And then now when we maintain peace, and he talks about this in the book, when it comes to peace, and which we have, we're in a great place, okay? Like he says everything is fucked, but the reason why people are lashing out over small things, like very small things nowadays, is due to the fact that we do live pretty good. Like everything is good. Like yes, there's things like global warming and people in other countries doesn't have food. But if you live in America and you live in like New York City, like here, or you live in California, you live in these states, and you live in a first world country, you got it pretty fucking good, because we have nothing. It's peaceful. Like, is there a world war right now? No, this is not. Back in the day. So things are actually really good, and we're finding that there's no conflict. So we're trying to look for conflict in all these other things, and this is why so many things have been coming up nowadays that are, yes, they do matter, but they're being built into these huge, gigantic things. When it's like, wait, we're all being fed, we all have places to eat. To sleep. We all drink clean water. Like, please go to Africa, or go to some parts of China and all these places where they're struggling out in these places, right? Yes, there's some things we gotta fix, but I believe we're humans. We persevere, we figure things out, and eventually we will. But that was one thing he talked about in the book that really, really stuck out to me. And I really like this quote he said. It's like, hope doesn't even have to enter into the equation. Don't hope for a better life. Simply be a better life. And you can choose that right now. Literally, it's just a thought. And, things are going to happen. Nothing's always going to be good. Sometimes things are going to be shit. And sometimes people think that their whole life is shit. Meanwhile, they don't look at the good parts and the times they laugh and the times they've had a good time and the good times, right? And how they can always bring that back. Sorry about that pause. Just had someone at the door. Anyway, I just wanted to close out this video because I feel like Mark Manson, and this is not his fault. I think it's just the contents of the book and the overall structure of the book. Something like this is really difficult to close and end, and I feel like even Mark had a difficult time closing out this book compared to the hundreds of other books I've read, and they always have a conclusion that closes the book or leaves it open for interpretation, or leaves it open for you to figure out your own end. And I feel like Mark had a tough time just due to the fact that it's really hard when you talk about things such as where the world is going and what we have done as humans and human nature. And one of the chapters I think would have been a great end was that pain is a constant. And I'm just gonna quote two different quotes that I got here. Quote 1. That while pain is inevitable, suffering is always a choice. What I like about this one, before I get to the second one, is that what I learned doing my emotional intelligence training in the past was, hey, when bad shit happens to you, sometimes if you have your mindset at the right place and you're strong internally, you could be able to say, yes, this is a challenge. This is something for me to get over, right? And I remember them saying that whenever a challenge comes by, just, yes, this is happening for good. It's going to help my growth. It's going to help me level up. And I'm going to make a video on gamifying your life and seeing it as levels. I've talked about it before. And just understanding that this is just going to make you stronger. It's going to make you more tough mentally, disciplined, and anything that requires you to be a better and more whole human, as Robert Greene says in the 48 Laws of Power, into the integrated human. And I think having pain in your life is a good thing, because obviously without pain, without conflict, there is no purpose. And pain, conflict gives us purpose, right? So anyway, the second quote here: death is psychologically necessary because it creates stakes in life. There is something to lose. You don't know what something is worth until you experience the potential to lose it. You don't know what you're willing to struggle for, what you're willing to give up or sacrifice. Right? So, think about it. Let that sink in. We require death. Death is beautiful because it's part of the human nature. I am terrified. I want to live as long as possible, but just understanding that death is part of it. Death, everything we create, everything we do is because at the end of the day we see that that's happening. We don't think about it daily, but it's there. We're thinking about it. And it's required for us to do all the things we're trying to do here. And it is definitely a necessity. And as I go through the last few notes that I have here, and a great way to end this is through this. Actually, I wanted to end it with this quote. This quote says, "Be a better human, and maybe if you're lucky, one day we'll get to be more than human." Because at the end, he talks about how we're all going to fuse. Pretty much, AI is going to take over the robots and whatnot. And if you listen to Joe Rogan, he's been talking about that a lot. So, if I was to give this book, out of all the books and the years I've been reading, score, I definitely give it a 9.5 out of 10. And the only reason why it's 0.5 is because I think it would have been, we could have ended it stronger, Mark. I love Mark, though. I'm biased. I've been following Mark's work for, I think, 8 years now. I started reading his articles and stuff when I was 21. So I'm a big fan of what his work has been, his blogs and everything he's done. So him coming out with a book and seeing his success since I've been following him when he was just a blogger on the internet, it's huge. So I recommend the book. Get it if you want to dig deeper into it. I gave you kind of like the summary in this 25-ish minute video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I expect more book reviews as I read at least 3 to 4 books a month, usually, unless I'm reading a big book. Right now, I'm reading 2 big giant books, so video will probably come out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's start a conversation. Comment below your thoughts on the book, what you liked about it, what you didn't if you read it. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. I'll post a link for the book in the bio. I'm not going to get paid for it. I'm just gonna post it because I want to support this man's work. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share, like, subscribe, support the channel that way. I'm not asking for no monies, just to make sure that these messages are being sent for the betterment of humanity and to make us better humans and more integrated humans, more optimized humans. So much love from me and Lily, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Peace.